McLaren magic, Sainz stupidity, and summer break celebrations. I'm Josh, and you're in the second seat. Welcome back, everyone. I have a very interesting episode for you guys today, covering off on the Hungary Grand Prix. An incredible weekend in terms of upgrades that were brought through, action on track and off track for that matter too, with numerous commentary and things like that based off the incidents on track. Talking about, everything from McLaren getting back on top to reactions to Carlos Sainz's incident with Oscar Piastri, through to even Toto Wolff's commentary around other engineers, their Mercedes PU reliability, and more as we head into the summer break. So let's get into it. First and foremost, let's talk about Carlos Sainz and Oscar Piastri. Wow. Where to start? I like Carlos Sainz. I think he's generally one of the cleaner drivers, one of the more professional drivers on the grid. This time around, he, in my mind, has been a petulant and ignorant child, taking no responsibility whatsoever for the incident with Piastri. It boggles my mind that he can't see that he did the wrong thing. So for context, yes, there were issues with the blue flag system on track. He wasn't the only driver having those issues. The likes of Ollie Behrman and others spoke to that issue. From my research, my understanding is the issue with the system was only related to the way the blue flags were showing on the driver's steering wheel, on the little LED panel that they have in that, not necessarily the ones that were showing on the side of the track. But on top of that, he went through 8 of them. He was told at least 5 seconds before Piastri got to him by his race engineer. And yes, there was some confusion there, but there's still enough time. And you have the marshals on the side of the track also waving blue flags. And if I'm thinking about this even further, I'm looking at it going, yes, there are a number of blue flags, but if I know there's issues with the system, I'm paying more attention to what is around me because the information isn't 100% accurate. So I need to be aware. There's just, it boggles my mind that someone as experienced and as professional as he generally is, he can't see that he is in the wrong here. 100% in the wrong. So as far as I'm concerned, Carlos Sainz, mate, you need to be spending this summer break, taking a long, hard fucking look in the mirror, champ, and coming back and figuring out that, hey, actually, I need to apologize because I stuffed Oscar up. Now, for those that are saying it's irrelevant in the grand context of the race, sure, Oscar went on and had a gearbox failure and DNF'd. That may have been the case, but we don't know. Yes, it could have been something that was already there. It could have been the slight hit that jostled something smaller out. And yes, I've had someone already have a crack at me and say, oh, do you even understand the mechanics of the car and all the rest of it? Sure. We don't know. No one's come out and said what the fault was yet for the gearbox failure. We'll get into the reliability issues a bit later on, but ultimately it's irrelevant in the context of the Sainz Piastri incident. Sainz caused a collision, got a soft penalty. Like the fact that he got the same penalty as Lewis Hamilton for speeding in the pit lane just boggles my mind. Because not only did he cause a collision, he then caused Oscar to lose the lead of the race. So huge situation and flow-on effects there. Honestly, Carlos, mate, you fucked it, buddy. Sorry. Grow up, take some responsibility. You're a grown-ass adult professional racing driver, not a karting kid, mate. Sort it out. Speaking of the papaya side, the pit wall does it again. whilst McLaren have become the third constructor to win a race this year in terms of a full Grand Prix, not just a sprint race. Lando Norris becomes the fifth Grand Prix winner in as many races, and the McLaren momentum is starting to potentially shift based off what we saw in Hungary with the upgrades that they brought. The pit wall, the papaya pit wall, has done it again. Similar to 2025, again, Oscar was leading last year. Again, he was leading this year. They pitted him early, gave him pit priority, didn't factor in the situation with the traffic well enough as far as I'm concerned. Lando ended up with the better strategy. So, yes, if Carlos Sainz doesn't hit Oscar, he likely retains the lead. Sure, we go on and see that he ends up with a gearbox failure and a DNF. That is unavoidable. The pit wall side, though, that was avoidable, and I don't blame Oscar for losing his temper at Tom Stallard, his race engineer, and saying, you guys didn't factor this in properly. Andrea Stella's come out and said, he was talking in anger and, defended the decision from an engineering point of view, race engineering point of view. And mate, I understand where you're coming from. Of course you're going to do that. But this isn't just a coincidence now. Once is a fluke, 2 times is coincidence, 3 times is a trend, and it's been a trend on multiple occasions now. So for the people that are sitting back and thinking to themselves, is McLaren actually treating him fairly? I don't blame them for questioning that, because there is definitely an external perception, rightly or wrongly, that McLaren are favouring Lando. Do I think that's the case? I'd like to think not. But part of me is starting to question the integrity of that organisation. And I like to think that I can sit back and be pretty circumspect about it. I know that Lando was quicker. Unfortunately for him, the Hungaroring, there's a reason why it's called Monaco without walls. It is difficult to achieve an overtake. Race pace in Hungary is effectively irrelevant. Doesn't matter how fast you are. If you're in front and defending well, as Oscar was, you're going to control the race and you're going to end up with the win. So as far as I see it, Oscar deserved the win. Lando stuffed it on lap 1. He went wide in turn 2. Oscar got the lead. If not for the pit wall strategy and, obviously some other things not going his way, we should have seen for the second time this year a Piastri win, the first one being Japan, and the situation with the safety car going in Kimi Antonelli's favour. So, pretty unlucky for Oscar a lot this year. Really interesting stat for those that like it. The number, I think it's 4 times Oscar has qualified P5, certainly over the last 2 years. All 4 times have ended in a non-finish. So disqualification in Vegas, DNS in both Australia and China, and then the DNF in Hungary. So, young fella's got a bit of luck to come back his way. I appreciate that Lando's also had some bad luck from a PU perspective as well. Unfortunately, for Oscar, he's just not been able to extract the best out of the car. And, for him this weekend just gone, he also didn't get the upgrades all weekend. He missed out on FP1. They, as in McLaren, wanted to compare old versus new again in FP2. So Oscar didn't get the upgrades until FP3, which means, he had 2 hours less of on-track time, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot when you consider the drivers only get race weekends with the physical cars to drive, as opposed to just simulator work compared to Lando. So, and people will look at that again and go, oh, they're favouring Lando, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's just an unfortunate set of circumstances, given that Leo was in for FP1. It was Oscar's turn for missing out on FP1. So, look, I'm going to start. I don't want to keep ranting on this. I think McLaren have some soul searching to do over the summer break. I think Oscar will probably take the break to relax and unwind and get himself in the frame for the remainder of the year. What we don't want to see is, a repeat of last year where his frustrations and concerns get the better of him leading into the back end of the year. There's still 12 races to go, so there's a lot for him to do. Can go from there. So a lot of faith in the guy. He's still a top-notch driver. We'll just see how things play out. Jumping into Mercedes, though, I have real concerns for their PU reliability. We had another situation this weekend, again with George Russell, anti-stall engaging when it wasn't meant to, off the start, which saw him drop from P5 back to P21. Now, he had an incredible drive once they sorted that out. Almost as good as Isaac Hadjar. Well, arguably, it's probably better than Isaac Hadjar's at Spa the previous week, because the Hungaroring is extremely difficult to overtake on. So for George to get from P21 to P7, well done him. And it just shows the caliber of driver that he is. It was just unfortunate that from a broadcast perspective, we didn't get to see any of that whatsoever. So really frustrating for George, again, especially because Kimi went on to podium with P3. So, that gap is now out to 59 points in the championship race between he and Kimi, and obviously Lewis Hamilton's sitting in between there, having finished P5. So, if I'm George, I'm rightfully frustrated. You saw the outburst he had last week at Spa, rightfully so. The thing that really gets me out of all this, though, is Toto Wolff's stance. Now, there's been a number of times this year that he's called out George on his driving style and blamed the situation on him. Afterwards, it's come out that it was actually the situation with the car. The issue was with the car and whatever context of the failure it was every single time. So, and not once has Toto come out and actually apologized for publicly decrying George, which I think is pretty poor from a leadership perspective. I think it was pretty poor in the first place of Toto to come out and lambast George publicly about it being his issue, as opposed to saying, we've identified, some potential options. We need to investigate this before we actually say this is what we believe, or this is what we have identified the actual issue to be. To publicly have a go at one of your drivers or blame the driver when in actual fact, each time George has been right in saying that it was an issue with the car. That's poor as far as I'm concerned. Yes, he came out this time and apologized up front, saying that the situation with the anti-stall was on the team. That's been a long time coming. Not great in my mind. But hopefully he's learned from the previous instances that, this is the way to go. But the thing with the Mercedes PU issues is it's not just affecting them. We saw it affect Lando and Oscar both in China. We saw it affect Lando in Monaco. We've seen it affect Oscar again this past weekend in Hungary. Mercedes needs to sort the reliability issues out, because as far as I see it, Formula One at its current state is set up so that certainly the manufacturing teams like Mercedes, Audi, Cadillac, Ferrari, it's an R&D platform or an engineering R&D platform to feed into the automotive industry. If I'm sitting there as a general consumer looking at this from Mercedes going, you're constantly having reliability issues, I don't know if I want to buy a Mercedes. That's where I'm sitting back, context of financial situation aside, I would be asking myself that question is, do I want to buy a Mercedes when I know that they're having failures at the top end? So, and then it leads into the Constructors' Championship side as well. They're only 72 points ahead of their nearest rival, which is Ferrari. We have 12 rounds to go. There's over 400 points available still before the end of the season. They're their own worst enemy right now. If Mercedes can't sort it out, you're going to have the likes of Ferrari and potentially even McLaren and Red Bull breathing down their neck come the end of the year. Now, I said at the start of the year in my earlier episodes that, yes, Mercedes are dominant, but I feel like there's going to be a Brawn GP style situation here where come the summer break, which we're now entering, everyone's going to come out after that, all ready to fire and take on the Silver Arrows beast. We've seen that over the last couple of races. Yes, Antonelli won in Spa, but we've had a Lewis win, we've had a Charles win, we've now had a Lando win. So, 3 out of the 4 last races have not been Mercedes on the top step of the podium. There's a lot of work to go on back at Milton Keynes and see how they go from there over the rest of the season. But if I'm Toto Wolff and the rest of the team there, I'm starting to go, hang on a second, maybe our advantage isn't as great as what we thought it once was, unless they're sandbagging, which I highly doubt. But, hopefully the other teams can come out and fire on all cylinders post the summer break. I would love to continue to see others win, and hopefully we can have certainly a Piastri win. Maybe some others as well in there. I'd love to see Max or Isaac as well, in particular, back up on the podium and the top step of the podium in particular. So speaking of Max, he had a frustrating weekend, really disappointed with the state of the car, which is funny considering he ended up P2. I think Red Bull did really well with their strategy, particularly given the virtual safety car towards the back end of the race. Max drove absolutely insane final stint, getting, well and truly over 25 laps on those soft tires. And if you haven't seen any of the imagery, look it up because they were shredded. Almost looked like they were a set of intermediates that you would pull off the shelf for a commercial or an everyday road car, right? Like that's how much they were shredded. It was crazy. So well done to Max for A, the drive, B, the P2. Absolutely incredible from him. Hopefully he can have a bit of a chill out over the summer break as well. I have heard some rumors that he might try and do some GT racing or something of the like, just to, fill his time, fill his cup. But it seems like Red Bull are slowly progressing in the right direction as well. So good on them. Hopefully they can continue to improve over the rest of the season. One set of improvements that I am super, super stoked about is Nico Hulkenberg finally having enough luck and enough reliability in his car to get his first points for the season, finishing P9 for Audi. So absolutely stoked for him. It's been a long time coming. There's been a number of races this year that he has been in the mix to score points and then had reliability issues, whether it's been brakes or gearbox or whatever, and just been unlucky. A number of times finishing P11 and qualifying P11 as well. So seems to love that number, unfortunately. I think he's holds the record for most amount of times qualifying in that position. So, yeah, I'm absolutely stoked for the Hulk. He is an incredible driver and just hasn't been in the right place at the right time to score, multiple podiums, be in the mix for a world championship, etc. Definitely someone that could have been, has the talent for. He's a Le Mans 24-hour champion. So he's got the skill set there. Just again hasn't been the right place, right time. So really, really pleased for him with that P9, and hopefully it's onwards and upwards for them and Audi for the rest of the season. I'd love to see him get another podium. I'd love to see Audi get a podium come the end of the season. So yeah. But what I want to do now is move into some questions. Had a number of them come through during the week leading into this episode. And the first one is from Lando Norris _ headquarters from Instagram. They've asked, what are Lando's chances of a second World Drivers' Championship this season? Up front, I think it's a long shot. He's currently 91 points behind Kimi Antonelli. We saw Max Nelly do it from just over 100 last year, missing out by 2 points. It all comes down to two things in my mind. First one is the reliability from a Mercedes perspective. If that maintains and Kimi doesn't shit the bed, which I can't see him doing, he's driving absolutely insanely well at the moment. It's not going to happen in that sense. The other side of the coin is whether or not the upgrades that McLaren brought to Hungary and whether or not they will continue the momentum that they achieved in that space. And if that's accurate and we see the improvement that I expect from Oscar in that space as well, they're going to be taking points off each other. So ultimately, I can't see Lando winning a second World Drivers' Championship this year. Next year, who knows? But certainly not this year. And then the second question we have is from Mel from Solo Sips and Trips off Instagram as well. And she's asked, why is Toto giving George Russell such a crap car? It's an interesting question, Mel. Part of me wants to wear the tinfoil hat and say, Toto is focused on making sure that Kimi has everything that he needs because he sees Kimi as his protege. He identified him. He took the risk and is seeing that come to fruition now by moving him up quickly from Formula 4 through to Formula 2 and then in Formula 1. So, there's a lot of investment from Toto in Kimi. That said, first and foremost, Formula 1 is seen and is not just seen, but is a team sport. And Toto in particular is very much Mercedes' first team principle. We saw that with the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg in 2016. He basically threatened to sack them and had paperwork done up to sack them after they came to blows on track. And I believe that could have been, I believe that was Barcelona and handed Max his first win. So, look, I don't think it's deliberate. Unfortunately, it just seems like the reliability issues largely fall on George's side of the garage. We have seen a couple of them with Kimi in terms of the wheel shield and the singular DNF that he had in Barcelona, coincidentally. So really difficult situation for the team. I can understand the perceptions that are there. Unfortunately for George, he's just having a lot of bad luck at the moment. Hopefully for him, from a mindset perspective, he can, take this break, reset, enjoy his time with Carmen and whatnot, doing whatever they're going to be doing, and come back in the Netherlands at Zandvoort, and hopefully he can have a good race. Not too good because we want to see Oscar, go back-to-back wins from a Zandvoort perspective this over 25 and 26. But, hopefully we can see George back on the podium again. And as I said earlier, he had an incredible drive in Hungary this past weekend, going from P21 up to P7, given the challenges that there are in that space with overtaking. So, thanks so much for sending through the questions. Really appreciate it. If you guys have any more, please send them through again. Socials are at The Second Seat, as in on Instagram, or you can send them through via email to thesecondseatf1@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening today. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. heading into the summer break. I'm going to have a bit of a chill over the next week, but I anticipate to keep bringing you guys episodes with the latest news and whatnot. So send those questions in, and we'll cover off everything that you've got there. So until next time, let me know if you want to know more. Cheers.